Please welcome Mount Vernon Mayor Sean Patterson Howard. Please welcome State Senator Jamal Bailey. Please welcome Assemblymember Jeffrey Dinowitz. Please join me in welcoming the 57th Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Good morning and welcome, welcome. Please sit down, please sit down. You've heard it before, but keeping New Yorkers safe is my top priority. Safe from harm, safe from crime, safe from injury. And that ironclad commitment also extends to traffic safety, protecting people on the roadways and at busy intersections. So today, we're slamming the brakes on dangerous drivers and preventable crashes. And in a few moments, I'll sign 11 bills to protect New Yorkers on the road, including the largest ever expansion of New York City's red light camera program. These laws will make the streets safer for everyone, our drivers, our pedestrians, our cyclists, and especially our children. And I want to thank my partners in the legislature and all the advocates, our transit advocates, our street safety advocates. I thank all of you for bringing your voices to our state capitol, and you were heard. And to all those elected officials, I know many were acknowledged already, but we have a number of our sponsors here. I want to acknowledge the sponsors of the bills here. Member, we have Rosick, we have Senator Liu, we have Senator Guinardis, and Senator Dinowitz, who are all sponsors, and Senator Bailey as well as many who've joined us who are co-sponsors of these bills. But it's important to give them the credit they deserve for this effort, which one would think would be not a complicated one, should be fairly easy, but we're finding nothing ever is. And this was truly worthy of the effort, and I want to thank everyone again who was involved. And also we'll be hearing from Mayor Sean Patterson Howard, who will be giving the perspective of one of our localities outside the city that will be benefiting from these changes as well. Now, you've also heard me say this before. I'm a mom, and I know innately that stress when your child walks to kindergarten, mine did, they go out the door, they're all of a sudden out of your care zone here where you have that protective shield around them from the moment they first open their eyes. And there's a lot of stress that comes from sending your kids out to school every morning. You're also thinking about, do they have everything they need? They forget their lunch, they have their books, they do their homework, they have a warm enough coat. Those are the standard concerns of every parent, but no parent should have that gnawing pit in their stomach when they wave goodbye each morning because they're worried about crossing a street or getting on a school bus. And lawmakers, my partners here, and advocates have fought for more red light cameras for one simple reason. One real simple reason. They work. They actually make a difference. 3 decades of data. 3 decades. Back to 1994 showed that they reduced crashes and they changed driver behavior, which is what we're looking for. Since New York City announced this groundbreaking nation-leading program in 1994, red light running at intersections with cameras has dropped 73%. I don't know what more you need than that data point. The T-bone crashes at intersections with cameras dropped 65%. When there's a camera, drivers know about it. They're less likely to dart through, try to get through a red light, and that means they're less likely to hurt or kill someone in a vehicle or on the street. On the other hand, we know that the intersections that do not have red light cameras are very simply more dangerous. And last year in New York City alone, red light runners killed 29 of our friends, neighbors, family members. All 29 incidences occurred at intersections without red light cameras. So behind every statistic is a life. Now there's an empty seat at a dinner table. an unfilled seat from a classmate in school, mom who never sees the joy of seeing their kids graduate, and sometimes losing a grandma who will not be there for her next birthday. What's so heartbreaking about all of these is they're all preventable. That's what we've established. And red light cameras are one of the best tools for prevention. So, today, we're giving New York City the green light to quadruple the number of red light cameras docked at intersections around the city. We're letting them do it. It's been the largest, thank you. Largest expansion, what do I mean by the largest expansion? Going from 150 to 600. That is transformational. Think about it, that's 450 more intersections where drivers are less likely to run a red light, less likely to hit a pedestrian, run into another car. Safer commutes for our kids. Now, in the decades since this effort was launched, again, right here in New York City, localities around the country and other parts of our state have followed the lead, but they also need approvals from the state. Now, I will digress. As a former local official, I never knew why we had to ask the state for something as simple as a red light camera. I was on our traffic safety board. I had a lot of requests from people, and I was always petitioning. At the time, it was the Pataki administration. And if I didn't get the answers I wanted, I rolled up to Albany with lots of petitions, not wanting to give anybody any new ideas. But that was me out there championing for traffic signals, widening of the roads, putting in, not widening the road, but putting in medians in the middle of roads where we've had head-on collisions that killed 3 teenagers my first few weeks on the job. So I have been a traffic safety champion, understanding the power of the placement of a signal, restrictions on roads, as well as red light cameras. And so today we're also signing bills to help some of our mayors. New Rochelle, Mount Vernon, Albany, red light cameras there as well. And in Westchester County, we're giving the town of Greenburgh the okay to have red light cameras at 2 busy intersections as well, and green lighting a new school zone program in Kingston. So all these are, and someday we'll get to a time when the state legislature focuses on other issues beyond this, because I love the fact that localities have the power to make these decisions, or they should have those decisions. But this is consistent with our governing philosophy, that we will empower them to make these decisions. They can make that decision. I encourage everyone from the advocates to the parents and other affected individuals to stay engaged and work with them to get this through. So you don't need us to tell you where your challenges are, but next year I'm happy to sign even more. If you want to come back to us and get more permission, I've got a lot of pens. I've got plenty of time and happy to do this because I understand the power of this pen, the power of this pen to effectuate the change that so many have been waiting far too long for. And this is the same principle behind Sammy's Law, which I signed last spring. We had an enormous rally. There was so much energy and excitement around this. And it gave New York City the power to reduce speed limits from 25 to 20 in residential areas and go even slower in certain zones. Now, one individual, again, the power of one, Amy Cohen, was the driving force behind this. Her son, Sammy, was killed by a speeding driver. And she put all that grief and energy into a bill named after him, and she fought for over a decade. My view is these fights should not have to go on so long. We need to be there for citizens who've suffered pain, who harness that pain and turn into positive energy for others, and let's just make that road a little easier and smoother. So people like that never gave up. These are the people I listen to, come see me, talk to me, as well as so many other advocates whose voices are so important to all of us. So we're not wasting any more time. That's my point. We're not wasting any more time. We're getting these signs. We're giving the city the power they need. We're giving our localities the power they need and making sure we do what's right. So we also have another challenge with school buses, right? Do you ever see someone pass a school bus? The school bus is stopped. Children are getting on or off. The lights are flashing. I mean, all the warning signs are there. You know what you're supposed to do. But somehow you think that your life is more important. You have to get to work. Maybe you should have gotten up a little bit earlier. You're putting other people's lives in danger, right? you're putting other people's lives in danger. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we empower the cities to do what they need to do. So I'm going to sign a bill, which also says, I'm going backwards in my remarks here, that we're going to talk about the school buses and increase the fines. Increase the fines. Right now it's $1,000. That's a lot of money. $1,000 is a lot of money for a fine. But apparently it's not working because people are still violating the law, putting our kids' lives in jeopardy. So let's try raising the fine. Let's raise that fine to $1,500 and see if that has an impact. And let's get that message out there. Let's get that message out there. So if you're going to selfishly endanger the lives of someone else's kids, you will pay the price. And again, I want to just conclude by saying today is not a one-off. It's part of a larger vision for an overall safer New York. By quadrupling the number of red light cameras in New York City and empowering other localities, raising the penalties for school buses, we're building on other major traffic safety initiatives, working closely with our local mayors, the mayor of the city of New York, his team, and focusing on the stricter rules regarding e-bikes, cracking down on illegal ghost cars, vehicles, those who are violating our laws, and again, giving people the power they need to protect their communities. It's a good day. It's a good day. When you think about all the things we do, this may not seem like the most consequential. But if one life is saved, that one life is consequential, I'm telling you right now. And that's what today is all about. So again, I want to thank Mayor Roach. I see Mayor Tom Roach here has joined us from White Plains as well. All of our elected officials who are part of this journey. Our common goal to ensure that people know we put their lives first. We'll always put their lives first, and we'll do whatever we can to protect them and their most cherished possessions, indeed their children. So with that, I'd like to welcome up Jeffrey Dinowitz, one of our great champions, one of our sponsors of the legislation. Again, congratulations to all of our other sponsors, and again, my appreciation to our leaders, Carl Hastie of the New York State Assembly, and Andre Stewart-Cousins, the majority leader of the, did I say U.S.? Of the New York State Senate. Maybe someday she'll get to the Senate, U.S. Senate, I don't know, but they're great partners, and I appreciate all their members and their leadership as well. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Governor, and I also want to thank State Senator Gurnardis. We partnered on this red light camera bill, and we both worked really hard because we understood that lives are literally at stake. And what is more basic to our job as elected officials than saving lives and protecting people from harm? And we'll never know which lives have been saved by this legislation, but we will know that people's lives will have been saved. You know, it was only a few years ago, I guess it was in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, we noticed a change in patterns in the city in terms of driving, and not only in the city, all over the place. More people were speeding, more people were disobeying red lights than ever before. It got worse and worse, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I mean, even now, people are just ignoring them. They're just ignoring the lights in unprecedented numbers. So we decided to introduce the legislation to significantly expand the number of intersections that have the red light cameras, and I think we should increase that number even more at some point. But by quadrupling the number of intersections, we know that behavior is going to be changed. It's not only the people who know that, well, this intersection has a red light camera, but that'll affect their behavior not only there, but in other places as well. And if we could change people's driving habits, that really will have a significant impact on safety in the city of New York. And for the people who don't know where the red light cameras are, and it's not going to be a state secret, you can see the cameras, they'll be impacted as well, even more. And I know there are some people who will complain, oh, this is just another way to raise money. Well, actually, if you don't pass a red light, it won't cost you anything. It won't cost a penny if you obey the law. And when you disobey a red light, you are breaking the law. And people should not complain if they get a red light ticket having gone past a red light. So I don't really want to see this as a way to raise revenue, although if money comes in, not such a bad thing. But I want to see this as a way to really change how people drive. because then we know that lives will truly be saved. And I'm just so pleased that this entire package of bills will be signed today, because throughout the state, this will impact countless numbers of people. So again, Governor, thank you for being about to sign these bills. This will be a great thing for New York. And with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague, State Senator Jamal Bailey from the Bronx, who's going to speak on his legislation.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Madam Governor, for truly taking traffic safety seriously. I lived the life through the lens of my children. And one of the first things that my two oldest have learned in school were about these traffic lights you see behind me. It's a very simple concept that red means stop, green means go, and yellow means hold on, wait a minute. Now, we shouldn't have to wait a minute to save lives. We shouldn't have to wait to make people realize that the most precious currency that we will ever have is our people, and most specifically, our children. We should not have to wait to make people take the learned behavior that they've had, because driving is a learned behavior. Driving is something that we learn. We have to learn how to use the brake and use the gas and make sure everything is set. Well, we also have to learn to respect other people and respect the lives of the children that walk around every day, the parents that drop their kids off, and the anguish in these families that sometimes when it happens, like in the city of Mount Vernon, which our great mayor will talk about, when a life is lost. There should not be one life lost due to running a red light. It is the most basic of things that we learn in the driver's manual. Hell, it's the most basic thing that we learn in school. Red means stop. It does not mean let me inch up a little bit. It does not mean let me go across. It does not mean I'm late for work. It's okay for me to pass this. No, it means stop. And when you have these cameras to correct this behavior, it will stop it. And it will make people think twice about what they're doing and how they're doing it and where they're doing it, which is why it's so important to make sure that we have this in the greatest little city in the state. See, I get to represent the Bronx and the city of Mount Vernon. If you close your eyes, and I don't recommend you do this while you're driving, but if you close your eyes on Bussing Avenue, then you're on Kingsbridge Road. The city of Mount Vernon and the Bronx are inextricably intertwined, and we always will be, not just in terms of streets, but in terms of the people that we share. And it's really important that we have authorized this, and I'm excited that I have a partner in government who not only welcomed this, but called me and said, we need to have this reauthorized. We need to make sure that the city of Mount Vernon is able to continue its path towards prosperity and making sure that traffic safety is taken seriously. She's an incredible mayor. She was a little bit mad at me because of the color sneaker choice that I had today. She'll talk to you about that later. But I'm incredibly proud to introduce my good friend, the mayor of the great city of Mount Vernon, Sean Patterson Howard.
Good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank our Governor, Kathy Hochul, for expanding and renewing red light cameras and making sure our community is safe. I stand here today in memory of Drew Faustin, a 9-year-old who on May 9th, 2019, after attending his after-school program, going across the street to the bodega before he went to choir rehearsal at his church, which was less than a half a block away from his school, was struck by a minivan and killed instantly. And so thank you, because this means a lot to our community in memory of Drew. Mount Vernon's committed to safe streets for all. And this bill goes a long way in helping us to bring forth our traffic safety plan in the city of Mount Vernon. We are a complete streets community, and we want to make sure that our community and that the quality of life in our community increases because of mobility and accessibility for all. We want to make sure that our children and our seniors are safe as they're crossing the streets and as they're moving throughout the city. One of the things, and Assemblyman Dinowitz mentioned it, since COVID, people have kind of lost their sense of responsibility. And in our communities and on our streets every day, we see cars speeding, not just on the main roads, but on our secondary and our tertiary roads. People are disregarding red lights. Yellow lights don't mean wait. It means go faster to get through the red light, so that you don't get caught by the red light. And that is a hazard to the residents in our community. Yes, we're seeing more car accidents, and yes, we've seen people be hit. And so red light cameras are not about revenue. It's about saving lives. We're not looking to increase revenue. We're looking to save lives, and this will definitely do it. Red light cameras are traffic calming measures. Speed cameras are traffic calming measures. And so many people in the community have asked over and over as we've paved our streets, and thank you for continuing to send money down for highway paving in our communities. But one of the things that protected us in Mount Vernon for a long time was potholes. If you had a lot of potholes on the street, people had to slow down. But now, as we've paved over 400, 500 streets in our community, we're seeing people speeding more and more. And speed humps are not the answer, because the more speed humps you put in your community, the more difficult it is for your emergency services to get throughout your community to do the jobs that they need to do critically. And so red light cameras will go a long way in helping to reduce speeding and increase traffic calming measures, and making sure that we don't have more Drews or more Miss Anns or anything like that who are losing their lives in our city. So again, I want to say thank you. We look forward to working with you on this, because safe streets for all in the state of New York is something that everyone deserves, and we're grateful to be a part of this initiative. God bless.
Thank you. Please remain seated as we sign the bill.
We're going to have our legislators and sponsors come up as we sign.
If you're taking a photo, please be crouched down. We need the cameras in the back to see it. Here, Assemblywoman Schimpf, do you want to come this way? Down, cameras need to go down. We're going to do one signing for the still cameras, and then the governor's going to sign it again for TV. We're going to do one more for you guys in the back after this.
Everyone looking at Susan right here?
Beautiful. She always says beautiful, makes us feel so good. It's always beautiful, Governor. You're beautiful too. Beautiful day. It's a shame people have to fight so hard for legislation like this, right?
All right, now that we've gotten our stills, if we could crouch down so the cameras in the back can get the governor signing the bill. If you're taking a photo, you cannot be standing. Camera, all the iPhones have to be down right now. Thank you. Commissioner, I think we're going to have to. Hold on. Hold on. The governor needs to finish signing.
One letter at a time.
When I go like this, there's one more that kind of. All right, the bill is signed.
All right.
Lights to yellow. Is that a caution reminder to all of you who crossed the line with your questioning today? I thought it had no effect. Okay. Thought I'd give it a try. Thank you for joining us today. Really proud of the 11 laws that we signed here today with our partners in government to make not just New York City, but many of our municipalities safer at their request. They wanted to have the ability to have red light cameras, which we know have dropped the number of fatalities significantly, going from, in the city of New York, going from 150 to 650 is going to be an incredible increase. So there's a lot of excitement here today, especially from families whose lives have been turned upside down by the loss of a family member, particularly a child. So really glad we could sign those today. Any questions?
Start with the on topic on transit. Kevin?
Thanks. Hi, Governor. You mentioned how the red light camera bill is a step forward for street safety. You didn't want to waste any more time. A similar initiative, or an initiative that would have saved a lot of traffic violence as well, that you support at the time of this, is congestion pricing. Would have reduced the amount of cars by 17%. Since then, since it should have gone in effect, we've had 290 injuries in the central business district. So, if you're taking 17%, it's about 50 people that might not have been injured. What do you say to these people about your reasoning for pausing congestion pricing?
My consistent position has been, and I'm happy to repeat it for everyone. First of all, this is a pause. Number two, $15 to institute congestion pricing was too high at a time when everyday New Yorkers are struggling with higher costs of everything, particularly their groceries. And we cannot be tone deaf to the impact that these policies have on individuals. That's why there is a temporary pause in place when we saw historically high inflation rates, the highest we've seen in 40, 50 years. So that's been well established why we made those decisions. But I'm also very committed to protecting individuals' lives on the streets, central business district and beyond. I mean, little Sammy was not killed in the central business district. He was killed at his home and in one of the outer boroughs. And so I'm also concerned about safety overall, what we can do to enhance safety on every street in the state of New York. We'll continue focusing on that priority as well.
In London, the crashes after the congestion charge there went down 46% in the zone, and even outside the zone by 16%. So it's not just
London,
zone.
you're talking, yeah. And what
So-
did London start with as their price?
Decades ago. So
Yeah,
why
yeah,
can't?
yeah.
So why are we waiting if we've seen this work elsewhere? Like, why are we wasting time on this?
I think I established the rationale behind it for you. London started lower, got people used to it. It takes a lot to change, and then over time, they got to a price that got higher. So there's just an evolution here that was not envisioned in what was put out right now, especially at a time, as I've mentioned before, it's the high cost of living, it's the increase in the cost of living because inflation, that was not envisioned in 2019 when this was first passed, nor was the opportunity for people to work from home. And as we try to attract people to come back to their offices and bring more life to Midtown in particular, where we still see a number of businesses that are or office buildings that are not at full capacity. We're still trying to get our ridership up on the subways. We're trying to do a lot to bring back the central business district, and $3,800 more a year to come back to the central district is also a barrier that could not have been contemplated back in 2019. So there's just a realization there's other factors, but I will restate this again. Temporary pause. Look forward to working with the legislature, putting forth a plan by the end of the year as we've committed. We're approaching that time frame, and also recognizing that $15 is a very high price point for New Yorkers at this time.
All right, Andrew?
Playing off of that, Governor, if you had a different price point, let's say $8, whatever the price may be, can you clarify, because I know you've been asked about this before, would you have to completely rewrite the law, or is there some kind of a floor there, if you and the legislature agree, let's just say $8, $9, whatever it is, where you could pretty quickly reactivate it on that lower price?
It does depend on what the price is, because the studies, the NEPA studies and others contemplated a range of prices up to $23, if you recall. So yes, the federal government would be very much involved in approvals of anything outside the range of what was studied, and that's certainly what would have to happen in that case.
But if it's in the range, this could be pretty quick, right?
Correct, if it's in that range of what was studied.
Just as a quick follow-up, I'm sorry, on Controller DiNapoli is out with a report which says that because of the temporary pause, the financial risk to the MTA may be worse than they're even saying. I'm just wondering if you have a response to that.
Yeah, I think it's important to make a few points here. One is that we should not conflate operating expenses with capital expenditures. And the messaging that came out of that report seems to do that. We are actually, because of the effort I had last year, in much better financial condition than we had been before I became governor. I literally stopped the MTA from going off the fiscal cliff. That is well established. And if you look at out-year gaps that are being pointed out in this report, we are the best funded public transit system in the nation. We have a smaller out-year gaps, just a fraction of what a Chicago, for example, has, exponentially higher. So we're not in a perfect place, but we are far better off because of the investments I made with the legislature, finding creative funding sources to make sure that people did not have to worry about the future of the MTA. And they should not worry about the future of the MTA. The capital expenses are what we're addressing, also looking at the next 5-year capital plan, which has been presented by the MTA. It's going through the review process. It is proposed at $68 billion, higher than the $55 billion capital plan that we are still existing in right now. But we understand how important these improvements are. Decades of neglect, underfunding the MTA, or just not even attempting to make the changes it should have made over the 100-year history, now leaves us with a major challenge. But there is no turning our back on driving the MTA into the future. I am committed to that. And that's why I'll be working closely with the legislature in the next session to address, the congestion pricing phase as well as the next capital plan. That is my commitment to it.
All right, any off topics? Rebecca?
There's a new candidate has just announced for mayor. I know that you have stated your opinions on the current mayor. Do you have any thoughts about the new candidacy of socialist Zohran Mamdani, who is also a member of the Assembly?
No, I don't. There'll be many more, I'm sure. There'll be some who come, some who go. What I've seen in New York City politics for many, many, many years is there's always an evolving door of candidates who announce, candidates who drop, new candidates emerge. So all I know is that we have a mayor, there is a primary in June, and a general election 1 year from now. And I predict that the landscape will continue to evolve and change dramatically. So I'm not commenting on individual candidates.
Governor, when can we expect to see you stumping for candidates in New York's battleground districts? Sorry.
Well, do you know where I'm going today? I have been out. I was just up in Syracuse. I was actually asked to do some national campaigning for Kamala Harris. I was with her in Michigan on Friday. I was asked to go to Pennsylvania, but I've asked that I said I'm only going to make a couple of trips out of New York because as I'm spending a lot of time on Long Island and have been, I was in Westchester this past weekend. I've been out there, and they're, if you ask any of them, they are so grateful, appreciative that there has been a transformation in the New York State Democratic Committee, channeling it from just an appendage of the previous governors, and I mean multiple governors, other governors' campaigns, when they run every 4 years, to becoming a robust powerhouse that has allowed them to have countless staffers and voter contacts, and we've opened 42 field offices. And I was in Michigan, the entire state of Michigan, a battleground presidential race, state, has 50. So we have 42 field offices in 6 congressional districts, primarily concentrated Long Island, Hudson Valley, and over to Syracuse. We've had 3.5 million voter contacts just from that coordinated campaign effort alone. That's amazing. So we have been out there raising the money, giving them the resources, building the ground game, working with our local county committees, started this effort last year to fund them, and now we're seeing the results. And check out the polls in races that were viewed as lean Republican or toss-ups. We're in a very good place. We take nothing for granted, but I believe we'll have a number of pickups that are going to really be transformational, and we'll do our part with other states that have to elect more Democrats, flip some districts back. But I've been out there. I'm in constant communication. I just spoke with John Avalon, who we're asking for help for funding. I'm speaking to our candidates all the time. I spoke with Pat Ryan, just spoke with Don Manning. I'm talking to everybody and offering our services. So I feel really good about it. I do. Home stretch. I'm always happy when it's election, when I'm not on the ballot, because I've been for 15 times. That'll come around soon enough. But very, very proud to be able to lead a party that is there helping these candidates in ways that had never happened before, and I'm going to keep that effort going.
Great, thanks everybody.
Oh, can we, can I?
You can certainly try.
Thank you. Sorry. Even without the congestion pricing issue, DiNapoli is saying there are still other risks to the MTA's operating budget and that you all, you may have to address as well. And I'm just wondering if you're thinking about that as well. And have there been talks with the legislature yet about how to fund the capital program? Have there been any talks about new taxes or anything at all? Because we are approaching January, it's coming, so.
Well, historically, those conversations about funding sources happen in the context of the budget. They'll be waiting for me to present my vision with the State of the State address, soon followed by the budget. They will then have the opportunity to offer their two visions, the one House bills, and then it gets down to brass tacks, and that's what the month of March is all about, and then we'll be getting into specifics. So everyone is aware that we have to fund the MTA. That is not anything that anyone will ever say is not going to happen. We'll make sure that they are strong, make sure they are healthy, and I'm looking forward to having those conversations with them. We are all aligned in the common view that the MTA is the lifeline of this region. It must be strong. We must continue making investments that others walked away from because they were too expensive and too hard to do, and I will not be that governor. That's why I saved it last year, and we'll find a path forward this year.
Great.
All right, thanks, everybody.